G'day folks, today we're going to talk about the new firmware DJI released for the Smart Controller. Now this video is going to be quite a bit different than I first anticipated because I had a lot of problems updating it. Now the problems I was having updating is kind of specific to Canada and possibly some other international countries. So let's just jump right in, we'll take a look at some of the new features and we'll take a look at the problem I had getting my Smart Controller updated. So on April 25th, DJI released a major update for the Smart Controller. It added a ton of new features, some really long-awaited ones, and this update has made a lot of people very happy who own the Smart Controller. Now this is the first update for the Smart Controller that DJI was very specific in stating that you have to update it via the Assistant 2 app on a computer or Mac. Up until now, all the updates could be downloaded via the Smart Controller over the air. Now to me that's kind of a fail because first of all, not everybody owns a computer nowadays. A lot of people nowadays can get by quite easily with just a smartphone and a tablet. If you don't do a lot of heavy editing and things that require a powerful laptop or computer, a lot of people just do without and they just do everything they need to do on their iPad. So the problem is if you don't own a computer, you're out of luck. If you've got a Mavic 2 Pro or Mavic 2 Zoom and you've bought the Smart Controller, there's no way for you to get this update as of right now. But to make kind of matters worse, when you turn on the Smart Controller, it still prompts you that there's an update available. It'll ask you to download the update and install it. If you try to update it via the controller, it's just going to get hung up and cause some problems there. Now I think DJI should have made it so that message doesn't pop up on the controller. If you don't follow some of the DJI support pages on Facebook and that, you'd have no way of reading the release notes and knowing that you have to update it via the Assistant too. So to continue, let's get into the problem that I had. Now some of you may be aware, if not, I live in Canada, and when you're in international countries, sometimes you get specific web pages for that country. For example, if I go to the Apple Store, it'll bring up a Canadian page. If I go to the GoPro website, it brings up a standard international page. If I go to the DJI website, it brings up a Canadian page. Sometimes they're pretty well the same, other times they're different because, there's certain products that can't be imported into Canada and different things like that. So I went to the DJI website to download the Assistant 2 because I had removed it from my computer about a month ago because some of you may recall there was a lot of people having problems with that red box popping up when you tried to launch the Assistant. Basically, Windows was blocking it, there was a problem. DJI did fix that a couple weeks ago. They released a new version and that kind of fix that problem. Now right away when I went in to download it, I noticed a discrepancy because if you look at the release notes for the update, it states that you need to have version 2.0.8 of Assistant. So this is the Canadian version of the DJI website, and you can tell there because it says CA right there in the title. And you can see here the DJI Assistant 2 is listed as 2.0.7. So I was thinking, well, maybe it's just a typo. Somebody put an 8 instead of a 7 in there because it's the latest version on their website. I even went in directly from the link provided on the release notes. There's a link to go and download the software. So I went ahead and downloaded it, installed fine. I plugged in the Smart Controller to my computer. It detected it right away, and it prompted me to update the new firmware. It started to install, but then it would fail. Restarted again. I must have done it about 20 times, and every time it would fail. I tried numerous different things. I restored back to factory the Smart Controller. I reverted the firmware to an older version, thought, well, maybe I could do that, update it that way. I tried different cabling. I was using the stock cable that came with the Smart Controller, which they do recommend you use. But I thought, well, maybe there's a problem with it, with my USB ports. Maybe something's kind of out of sync. I finally went on to the DJI tech support and went over a whole bunch of stuff with them. And they said, yeah, it looks like there's some other kind of problem. They wanted me to send my log files in so they could send it off to their engineers to figure it out. And they'd get back to me. So as I'm trying to troubleshoot myself, I thought, well, I'm going to go back to the Assistant 2 app and see about that 0.8. I went back to the Canadian site, and sure enough, it's still listed as 0.7. I went up and I switched to the US website because you can do that via your account. And sure enough, as soon as I switched it to the American site, I went back to the download page. There is the 2.0.8 update. So to make a long story short, if you're in Canada or if you're in another international country that's still showing the 2.0.7 update for Assistant 2, make sure you switch it to the US website and then you'll get the latest version. Because you do have to have that latest version of 2.0.8 Assistant 2 for this update for the Smart Controller to work. So with all that said, let's take a look at what's new with the controller. They made some significant updates for the Smart Controller. First off, if you own any of the Enterprise Mavic 2s, the Mavic 2 Enterprise or the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, it is now fully compatible with the Smart Controller. Now what they've done is they've added a management for your drones, so you can now bind multiple drones to the Smart Controller. You don't have to go back in and rebind every time. And that's huge, especially if you own a Mavic 2 Pro and a Mavic 2 Zoom. And even going forward, as DJI maybe possibly releases new OcuSync 2.0 drones, say a Phantom 5 does happen to show up one of these days, and it's an OcuSync 2.0 drone, you should in theory be able to bind it to this controller as well and switch back and forth easily. And to do so, one of the new features is they've added this switch aircraft. And if you click on it, but you can add all the different drones there. You can add the Mavic 2 Pro, Mavic 2 Zoom, Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, and the Mavic 2 Enterprise. So between adding support for the Enterprise drones and being able to switch back and forth and bind multiple aircraft to the Smart Controller, that's a huge feature. Now, another really nice feature they added is you can now set your memory card to the default storage. So what's going to happen is after you've done the update, you're going to get this message on the screen asking you if you want to set your memory card to the default storage. And as long as you hit yes, it'll reboot. So from this point on, all your cached files, and if you're doing screen recordings or taking screen captures, are now going to be saved directly to the SD card. And that can be handy for a couple different reasons. First off, if you transfer a lot of the files from a memory card to something like an iPad or your laptop, you don't have to transfer it to the memory card first, which you used to have to go in and do. Transfer everything from the internal storage to the memory card, and then you could take the memory card out and put it in, like I said, an iPad or a laptop. Now everything is already on there, so you can just take it out and transfer it instantly. The other nice thing is that you get more storage because, the built-in storage is kind of limited and it can fill up fairly quickly. So now you can put a large card in there and don't have to worry about it filling up quite as fast. Now, and if you recall, I did a video a few days ago about using the Mavic 2 with a dual controller setup. So dual controller support has also been added to the Smart Controller now. They've also made a change that if the compass on the Smart Controller needs to be calibrated, it'll pop up a warning and warn you to calibrate it. They've also optimized the DJI Go Share, so it makes it a little bit easier to transfer photos from your Smart Controller over to, say, something like an iPad or a smartphone. Now, the other kind of interesting change they've made is that you can now update the DJI Go 4 app independently from the system. Now, what that means is that we should see updates a little bit quicker when it comes to the DJI Go 4 app. Before, we'd sometimes have to wait sometimes weeks before we got updates, but now those should come in a little quicker now that it's independent from everything else. So yeah, folks, a lot of really big updates for the Smart Controller. It's already taken a really powerful unit and made it even that much more versatile. Now, if you don't have a Smart Controller, if you're on the fence about it, I really do recommend them. I have actually enjoyed this since I first got it, and now with all the new updates that have come over the last couple months, they've made this thing really powerful and really enjoyable to use. And for me, the fact that I can have several different aircraft bound to the remote is huge, because if I'm going out and I've got my Mavic 2 Pro and my Mavic 2 Zoom, I don't have to bring two different controllers with me if I don't want. I can bring one controller and just switch back and forth very easily. I have links down below to the Smart Controller and to the Mavic 2 Pro and Mavic 2 Zoom. If you're in the market to maybe purchase a Smart Controller or a Mavic drone or any other product from DJI, I would really appreciate if you use my links below. It's a great way to support my channel and really helps me to continue to make videos for everybody to enjoy. Anyways, folks, that's it for this video. Hopefully you got some value out of it. Don't forget to hit the like button if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And we'll see you in the next one.